Hello, YouTube. So, one of the big questions that all captains and teams have that I've kind of figured out a system to beat it is, how do you build a team that's competitive over a long period of time? And it can be extremely frustrating as a team captain or co-captain in finding players that are, one, competitive, and two, don't go up in ranking. So in this video, I'm going to go over roughly about 5 things that, as a team captain constructing a team to go the long haul, make it to Vegas or a national tournament in whatever prospective league you're in, you need to know. All right. So rankings, we've all got them, and now each individual skill group, whether it be 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 and 7, are all very important. And you can't ignore one skill level group in order to stay competitive throughout the year and into nationals. Because one of the biggest things that happens during the course of the year is a player or multiple players will move up in ranking, and that will put you near your cap. Now in APA, you got a 23-point cap, and in other leagues, it's like, I believe TAP is a little bit higher. I think it's like 25. And I'm not sure about like USAPL or UPA. USAPL uses the Fargo system, and UPA I'm not positive on. I don't play in UPA, but so with that cap, how do you stay competitive? Well, you need your 2s and 3s. All right, that's your gold right there. Okay, and finding solid low-rated players is extremely difficult. I mean, there are more teams looking for low-rated players than there are teams looking for your high-rated players, like your 5s to 7s, okay? And the reason why is because a lot of teams, what they do is they'll go and bring in an unranked player. Now, that works, but what happens is they'll bring in a low-ranked or an unranked player, and that player, through the course of 1 or 2 sessions, at first, their first session, they're bouncing around a lot. As you're getting them qualified and everything, you've got to throw them all the time. And so what a lot of teams do is they'll find a player that plays pretty well, and they're like, oh, you need to join my team because I need a low-ranked player, and coming in, you will meet that need. The problem is that player is a solid player. You know, they're pretty decent, which is why you chose them. The problem is that player isn't going to stay low rated that long. So what you have to do is you have to find a player who's been in the league for at least a year and has stayed a 2 or a 3. Now, they could stay a 2 or a 3 for multiple different reasons. One could be they're just, I'm not insulting any low-rated players watching this, but just maybe not all that good at a couple different things, which leads to high innings during a match or a lot of losses. And all these things can be corrected, because you can have a low-rated player with a high win percentage. Okay, there's a lot of factors that go into keeping a low-rated player low-rated. And I'm not saying sandbagging. I know there's a lot of people right now jumping out of their seats, screaming at me right now, about ready to blow up my comment section, going, oh my God, you're talking about sandbagging. No, I'm not. I'm actually quite opposed to sandbagging. But there are some strategies that, as a captain, you can employ to keep your player low rated. And I'm not saying sandbagging. People are already jumping all over me, and I will go into that a little bit later about how to manage skill level without sandbagging. Okay. Now your second group of players that are really important to have is your 4s to 5s. Okay. Now these are typically your players that are pretty solid. They've got really good games sometimes, and then they've got some not so good games. Now me, I am currently a 5, okay, and I fall into this category. I have broken and ran multiple times during matches, or during my, my time in APA and TAP, to where a lot of teams are screaming or, calling up the League of Operator going, oh my God, this guy's underrated. No, there's you can have a hot night and stay at your skill level. I've shut out 6s, beat them 4-0. And it's not because, say I was I broke and ran every rack. No, I played smart pool. Okay, but the reason why your 4s and your 5s are really, really important is because of the points. Okay, is you can go and throw 4 5s and a 3. Yeah, 4 5s and a 3 and be within your cap, which is why 2s and 3s are extremely important to have. And I'm not saying throw them to the wolves and you'll win most of your matches or most of your nights, but you've got to have them so that if you want to go and throw competitively, throwing your higher rated players, you can, and you can pretty much secure a night. But I mean, there is a handicap system for a reason, so that it gives low rated players a chance. But this is a system that has worked really well for me and the teams that I've been on. Now, so you can also throw, multiple 4s and get in there too. I mean, you could throw 5 4s if you had a team that was constructed that way. I don't suggest it because typically one of your 4s is going to go up to a 5 and then you're screwed. Okay? So with a team of 8 players, it is very important to have at least 2 or 3 of those players being your low-rated players and the rest of them being your mid to high. Now I'm going into your 6s and 7s, okay? You need, and I've seen teams be competitive without a 6 or a 7 on their roster, okay? I'm not saying that it's imperative that you find a killer 6 or 7 to have on your team, but for the importance of having a player who is of higher skill level for their knowledge is extremely important, because there is situations in every league night to where knowing how to play a safety or how to read the pattern on the table that a low-rated player might not have the knowledge of is extremely important, especially when it comes to a situation where you say you're hill and you need somebody that you can turn to ask them for help. And sometimes as a 5 myself, I look over to my 7 and I'm like, hey, I need a timeout. I'm pretty sure that I know the route or the pattern to play here, but I need you to, go and reinstill or, give me the confidence that I need, that I'm choosing the right pattern. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not choosing the right pattern. And that timeout will be able to walk me through how I need to play this out or how to play the safe. Maybe there's a safety there that I could play that could better develop the table and give me the win. Okay? There's a lot of reasons to have a high-rated player. Plus, they work really well as closers. And what I mean by that is when you get down to the last maybe 2 matches. Is we usually, on my teams, we usually throw our high-rated players a little bit further towards the end of the night to help close it out. They typically play better under pressure. Typically, all right. The high-rated players that I have around me, that I surround myself with, they typically do better under pressure. I mean, think about it. They've got to win a lot more racks in order to win the night or win their match. And the good ones don't allow that to get to them. And when it comes time to secure the win for the night, I throw them at the end, and they're able to close it out. So there's 2 really solid reasons to have a 6 or a 7 on your roster. Now, like I said, I have ran into teams where I looked at their roster, and I joined one recently, and when I looked at the roster, I was like, what? Your highest rated players are 5s. You don't have a 6 or a 7, and one of the players turned to me and was like, well, hey, we made it to the finals of LTC, which is the local team championship in my area, which is the tournament that sends teams to Vegas. They made it to the finals without having a 6 or a 7 on their roster. Okay? Now, could having a 6 or 7 on their roster sent them further? Maybe. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch their team's match when they were in the finals. But I know the team that played them, and they did. They had 6 or a 7. They had a 6 or a 7 on their roster. And having that knowledge base there, whether or not they play in that, that team match or not, is still very valuable, because you can't go and not have one on your team and go and turn and say, hey, I need a timeout, and have a 6 or 7 come over and talk to one of your team members and tell them how to give the timeout. All right. So that's why I feel that it is imperative to have a higher-rated player, a 6 or a 7. Okay. So now moving on to managing your players' skill levels without sandbagging. Okay. And now I put that in quotation marks because a lot of people's views of sandbagging is different. Now, I don't go and tell my players to go out and lose a match or purposely miss a shot. No, you don't do that. Okay, one, it is detrimental to the player, and it kills the competitiveness. There's nothing worse than having a 4 that is capable of running a rack out and going and playing against them in, say, regionals or cities or whatever it's called in your area, and playing against one of these killer 4s who should be a 5 or a 6 and getting run over. Okay. Now, how you go and manage the player's skill level is by practicing with them. Okay. And what I have found works is to, one, when they practice, have them practice against skill levels, okay? Have them practice with them, okay? And then 2, make use of your timeouts, all right? If they have timeouts, give it to them, all right? Now, I've seen teams go and not give their low-rated players any timeouts in hopes that keeps them down. And it works, okay? Yeah, throwing them to the wolves and letting them make every mistake in the book and losing will keep them low-rated, but I don't feel that is right, okay? And have them practice the shots that are within their skill level, okay? Don't teach a player how to go and shoot a 3-row draw shot or any of that, okay? But teach them the fundamentals, all right? Teach them stop ball, follow, how to use a little bit of spin in their game, okay? To play position. And then another thing that works for me is throw them against players that are within their skill level, all right? And what will typically happen is it'll be a hill thriller, and you make use of those timeouts that I talked about, giving those players, and that right there will help keep them within their skill level, within the skill level that you need them. Now, if they're a really good player, they're not going to be held back, okay? They're going to move up, all right? But that's why I said, when you're choosing a low-rated player for your team, the best way to do it, and it's raining now, is to go and find a player in the league who's been a 2 or a 3 for at least a year, okay? They've been playing in the system. They've got an established ranking, all right? Going out and finding a player right off the street who's never played before and having them come in and is unrated, they're going to move around a lot. And they're probably going to move up right when you go to one of these big tournaments. Say your team makes it through playoffs and goes to Tri-Cups or Cities. You know, when I've had it happen was the day of LTC, the first day of LTC. I go in, I check my roster, and my players are moved up. Okay, that's typically when it happens, because the league has to go through and review all the matches for the session and make a determination on whether or not that player is still within the skill level that, you know, they were at. Okay? So planning for that is key. Know that your player is going to move up. Don't be riding the cap the whole session and be surprised that when you go into Tri-Cups or LTC or whatever regional tournament your league has, and your player has jumped in ranking, okay? So that is my recommendations, okay? For keeping your players competitive, or helping keep your team competitive when building it. Alright, so I hope that this video has been informational and helpful to you, and you're able to use some of these tips that I've given to make to help build your team and make them competitive. A lot of it goes into also another piece of advice that I have is don't go out and find all the top players, like the MVPs or the top guns of the previous session, and recruit them on your team. That might work, it might not work. What a big thing that goes into it is, besides the skill rating, is chemistry. You know, your team is a team, and everybody has to build each other up and support one another. And so personalities, you can't have a personality clash, because I can guarantee you can take the best skill level. I could go and take the best skill level, everybody who was a top gun or an MVP during, you would say, multiple sessions, okay? Put them all on a team, and that team might not be competitive, okay? And it could come down to chemistry. It could come down to, you know, the support structure that are within a team. I've seen it happen a lot where a team failed because they didn't help each other. They didn't support one another. And that's one of the things that makes the team that I played on, we went to LTC and we competed really strong, really well there, was that we all got along very well together. And we supported one another. We didn't break and tear each other down when we lost. I mean, losses are bound to happen, but it's how you build one another up after a loss. Losses are tough. I hate losing. And in fact, whenever I do lose, I use that as motivation, because I hate the feeling so much to go and win. You know, I'll go and work on the shots that I struggled on, but not to get onto a rabbit trail with that, but your team has to build one another up. You have to support one another. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So, if you found this video informational and you like the content, press the like button. If you want to see more of me or more videos regarding pool, click the subscribe button. Until the next time, later.